These are the Epstein Files that the Department of Justice released today. They released thousands and thousands of pages that look just like this one. Exhibit 2. Exhibit 3. Now, while a lot of these files were redacted, we did get some unseen photos, like for example here, Epstein with a very, very young child here, as well as several photos of Bill Clinton. But you know what was missing from the Epstein files? Trump. Trump is nowhere to be seen in these thousands of files. And I just find that hard to believe. So yeah, I think the Department of Justice dropped the ball. Like, this is backfiring in a major way. So many people are upset that this small percentage that they did release is all redacted because they were hoping to have the grand jury testimony. But of course, that was withheld. They said they will release more documents later, but you know what they did release? Let's check this out. It did include this complaint to the FBI in 1996 from Maria Farmer, who was pretty much saying who Jeffrey Epstein was. He was threatening to burn down her house if she told anyone that he had stolen photos of her two younger sisters she had taken pictures of and sold them off. Yeah, she reported this to the FBI in 1996 and nothing was done. And now it's coming out in the open. When the New York Times contacted her this evening, she said, "I've waited 30 years. I can't believe it. They can't call me a liar anymore." Do you know how many women this could have saved if the FBI had followed up with this complaint in 1996? Like, she was the original whistleblower for Jeffrey Epstein. Out of everything that's been released today, I want to say that complaint has been the most important thing. Now, again, thousands of pages were released, so people are still going through them, but how can they say they are the most transparent administration in history when so much was redacted and so little was even released? I don't know. As always, thank you for watching the Mexican Millennial, and don't forget to like to follow to stay updated on current events. Bye.
Donald Trump tried to remove his name from the Epstein files, but he failed. There were a couple of documents he missed, and he's implicated. So make sure to share this around because MAGA is trying to take a victory lap here. So first of all, the Wall Street Journal reported on this photo over the summer, where Epstein is holding a check from Donald Trump for $22,500. Trump was trying to buy a, quote, fully depreciated woman. Well, it looks like Donald Trump forgot to remove this from the Epstein files because a new photo of Epstein holding that check with a redacted woman next to him appeared in the files. You can see Trump's signature, the same amount, it's there. Here's another example. This photo just looks like the mantle that Epstein had in his New York City mansion and all the photos he has with famous people. But if you zoom in on the bottom left, there's Donald Trump with women around him. That photo is not in the Epstein files so far. Or the new flight logs where it shows that Donald Trump took his daughter and wife on Epstein's plane multiple times. Or one of the complaints against Epstein from a 14-year-old girl at the time, which includes Donald Trump. Quote, during one of Doe's encounters with Epstein, he took her to Mar-a-Lago where he introduced her to its owner, Donald J. Trump. Introducing 14-year-old Doe to Donald J. Trump, Epstein elbowed Trump, playfully asking him, referring to Doe, "This is a good one, right?" Trump smiled and nodded in agreement. They both chuckled and Doe felt uncomfortable. That's a 14-year-old girl who they're saying is a, quote, good one. Creepy stuff. And according to Democrat Ro Khanna, who is one of the people behind the bill, they only released 1% of the Epstein files. If that's just 1%, imagine what's in the 99.
Okay, family. Now we have it. Welcome back again to my channel. Thank you so much for always supporting me. Thank you for watching my videos. So, family, the Epstein file, the Democrats, released some of the Epstein files videos few days ago, right? And now, all of a sudden, a lot of images came out, a lot of things came out. We saw Epstein, we saw Trump, Mike Johnson, a lot of them pop up with their small babe where they carry. Okay, that's my Nigerian accent. So now we didn't see Trump. The main one we want to see, we did not see him. Why? Because they now went and erased all the files they brought out. They deleted everything. Like they deleted everything. But do you know what? There's nothing hidden under the shadow. There's nothing hidden. If you like, delete it. somebody will soon bring it out. Somebody will soon bring it out. And we will still see it. We already know what the files, we already know what to expect, actually. But, we want to see all of them with our two eyes, right? Now, if you guys think that deleting those things will stop us from asking you people to upload it again, you are lying. Because now the victims are very upset. They're like, why are they deleting it? Why is nobody talking about it? Why do you guys say people are going to be transparent? People are going to post everything. And now all of a sudden you guys are deleting some. What is the content of those ones that are deleted? We don't know. We want to see it. Okay, like everybody's reacting. The internet is on fire. Okay, let me know what you think about this video in the comment section. Okay, let's keep watching. I'll come back to more commentaries. Don't go anywhere, family.
Okay guys, breaking news. We've just got a bunch of really strange, never seen before images from the Epstein Files, which include the likes of Trump, Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, Richard Branson, and more. And we'll talk about why they're so strange in a second. So there was about 19 released in total. This is one of Trump with 6 women whose faces have been redacted for privacy. There's another one of him on a private jet with another unknown woman. We have Trump seen at another party with Epstein. Here's the strangest one by far. A picture of a Trump condom for sale with text saying, "I'm huge." We've got Bill Gates with one of the pilots, a bunch of pictures on the wall actually, of redacted women's faces and what appears to be Bill Gates on a jet. We've got Bill Gates and Andrew. You've got a few pictures of Steve Bannon with Epstein and Richard Branson as well. But the strangest part about all of these is that no one really knows why these images in particular were released. As far as we know, none of these images that were released depict any sexual misconduct, or they're not believed to have depict any underage girls either. And apparently, to make this even stranger, the Democrat House Committee have received over 95,000 photos from the Epstein estate. So again, why these now? They did say that they would be releasing more of these images to the public in the days and weeks ahead. So, what do you guys think?
Donald Trump and his Department of Justice have been caught deleting photos and files where Donald Trump is mentioned in the Epstein Files. So you've probably all seen this photo by now. It's the mantle in Epstein's house in New York City. There's famous people he has photos with, the Pope, Bill Clinton, the whole 9 yards. But if you zoomed in on the bottom left, you saw this photo of Donald Trump hanging around with women. That photo was not included in the Epstein Files. They deliberately didn't, and people had to zoom in to find it. Now, that photo is really bad for Trump. Not only does it expose his relationship with Epstein, but also exposes their cover-up. And so the Department of Justice just deleted it from their files. It used to be right between 467 and 469. It used to be file 468, and now it's gone. If you still have the link and try to go to the website to access this photo, it just says access denied. And for people who have downloaded the photos, it still shows up. It used to be there, 468. Now it's gone. And this is not the only example. There are plenty of missing photos that the DOJ hasn't released and hasn't provided an explanation for not releasing. The cover-up is so blatant, it's so brazen and so disgusting. It's almost like they're not even trying to hide the cover-up. They're just saying, yeah, we're doing it, deal with it, get over it.
So if you have lived and breathed this case for the last 6 months like I have, if you actually know what to look for, there is some juicy stuff in these filings. It's pretty obvious from the get-go that the Bondi DOJ did not expect the judge to actually release the grand jury transcripts from the New York Epstein case. But one of the first things that I really focused in on was the transcript for the bail hearings for Epstein. So they started off a bail hearing with another judge, but then they had a continuance so that the lawyers could gather some information and respond to some requests by the government. And so 3 days later, they continued the bail hearing, which is how Judge Richard Berman got the case. But in that bail hearing, in a 3-day period, Epstein only filed with the court a 1-page self-disclosure of his financial assets. Didn't include bank accounts, didn't include all of his property, and in fact didn't even name the banks that he had accounts with. But it's pretty obvious that it was a bad idea to continue that bail hearing, at least for the defense, because the prosecutor, Ross Miller, informed the court, in connection with that factor, Your Honor, this morning, the government became aware that a locked safe in the defendant's mansion, there were piles of cash, dozens of diamonds, and a passport appearing to be issued from a foreign country with the photo of the defendant and a name on the passport that is not the defendant's name. Judge says, Say that again. You found that today? We became aware of it today. It was seized in connection with a warrant. We became aware of it just this morning. Judge responds with, when you say piles of cash, did you count it? I always love a flabbergasted judge. The prosecution goes on to say, I should say, Your Honor, I forgot to mention, the passport that I just referenced listed at the time his residence as Saudi Arabia. This was from the 1980s. The judge again goes, would you describe that passport again? I'm not sure I caught it. I can, Your Honor. The passport was issued in the name of a foreign country. It appears to have been issued sometime in the 1980s. It is currently expired. It has photo that appears to be the defendant, and it has a name that is not Epstein. I'm going to skip ahead in time just so I can keep this all clustered together. But this is from Jeffrey Berman, the United States attorney who's in charge of the case, not to be confused with Richard Berman, the judge in this case. So sorry about that confusion. I can't help what their names are. Weirdly enough, this letter is a response to something that the defendant's lawyers presented to the judge, and yet I couldn't find that letter anywhere in these documents. Y'all will come to find out that that is a pattern going forward with a lot of these transcripts. We at least have an idea of what that letter says because they reference it. So they quote the Epstein lawyer's letter as saying the Austrian passport expired 32 years ago. The government has nothing to suggest and no evidence that Epstein ever used it. But Jeffrey Berman flat out refutes that and says there's literally stamps from France, Spain, United Kingdom, and Saudi Arabia on this passport. The government further notes that the defendant's submission does not address how the defendant obtained the foreign passport, and more concerning, the defendant has still not disclosed to the court whether he is a citizen or legal permanent resident of a country other than the United States. And the explanation that Epstein's lawyers give is that Epstein was given the passport at issue by a friend. Some Jewish Americans were informally advised at the time to carry identification bearing a non-Jewish name when traveling internationally in case of hijacking. What? He never used the documents to travel internationally and never presented it to any immigration or customs authority, and claimed that the stamps were already there when they printed his information on the passport. Also weird is that they say that Epstein reported in his pretrial services that he is a lifelong American citizen and has no other citizenship or legal permanent residency. So it seems pretty obvious to me that Jeffrey Berman thought that that was not true. And now we're going to dive into my bread and butter, subtext. Because the government talks about rejecting the idea of the defendant's proposal for private security. Because Epstein said that if his bail was denied, he wanted to hire his own private security guards to keep him safe in jail. That's not a person who's trying to end their own life. That's a person who's desperately trying to stay alive. Not only that, but I figured out how they incapacitated Epstein the night he left this earth. But that's going to be its own video, so make sure you interact with this one so it'll pop up when I post it.
At this point, I am totally convinced that the Epstein Files is the distraction, and you do not have to agree with me. This morning, the Democratic House Oversight Committee released 95,000 images of the Epstein estate, and guess who was in them? Your boy Donald Trump, and Bill Clinton, and Bill Gates, and Steve Bannon, and Woody Allen, and Richard Branson, amongst a couple other people, right? Let me just say this. Association does not make you guilty. Let's start there. And the simple fact that y'all keep giving us these Epstein files like it's a drip campaign is absolutely diabolical to me. It's either y'all gonna give it to us or y'all gonna keep them. Tell us something we don't know. Tell us something we don't know, like who names are not on the files, who paid to get their names off the files. Let's have this conversation, because at this point, for it to have been 95,000 images that was released and you only released 10 to 15 of them, that does not sit right with me. I'm going to just say this. Y'all can keep falling for this shit if y'all want to, but like I said before, the Epstein Files is the fucking distraction.
This is me.
This was me.
This is me.
When I met Jeffrey Epstein.
This is me. When I met Jeffrey Epstein.
Survivors of Jeffrey Epstein are making a last-minute public push to convince House Republicans to vote to release all of the files related to the convicted sex offender.
I was 14 years old.
I was 16 years old.
I was 16.
17.
14 years old.
I suffered so much pain.
So much pain.
So much pain.
The public service announcement was created by the advocacy group World Without Exploitation and released ahead of this week's highly anticipated vote.
It's time to bring the secrets out of the shadows. It's time to shine a light into the darkness.
So much news, so little time. Welcome to Preemie News, where what's news to you, I already knew. Let's start off the day right. Today is the deadline for the Epstein Files, meaning they got to release them things by the night, or at least some of it. So Stick by your computer, stick by your phones, cuz you supposed to get something. But don't be surprised if you get nothing. Anyways, in other news, a man in South Florida was wrongfully arrested over a license plate frame. Now, if you don't know what a license plate frame is, it's a frame that goes around your license plate. We've had it for a very long time now, but all of a sudden, it's against the law. Yeah, second-degree misdemeanor, meaning up to $500 in fines or up to 60 days in jail. Now, I'm not even going to play with y'all. It got everything to do with those new flock cameras. If you don't know what a flock camera is, go ahead and look it up. It's these secret cameras that they put all over the place. You didn't even know they put it up, and you didn't even know that they had them. And they use AI to read these license plates for stolen cars and different stuff like that. But the license plate frame distracts the AI from being able to read the right parts of the license plate. So you got to get rid of that so the AI can do its job. And right now, it's license plate frame. Next thing you know, it's glasses, masks, and hats that block your face in public. Anyways, in other news, Trump has announced the Warrior Dividend Check. $1,776 to all active U.S. military members. Clap it up, y'all. This is good. No, I'm serious. Clap it up. This is a good thing. They deserve that money. I think all active U.S. military members should get that check. They deserve it. Clap it up. They deserve it. Where's that money coming from? I know he's telling y'all it's from the tariffs. Where's the money coming from? Okay? Because when I went online and read for myself, it says this was already approved months ago by Congress from the military housing budget, not from the tariff revenue. So, Trump is taking that, repackaging it, and telling y'all it's from the tariffs. You know he like to do stuff like that. Anyways, and lastly, Trump has announced the Patriot Games. It's where they take young competitors, one man and one woman, from each state and territory in the U.S. and have them battle it out in some type of physical activity competition. It reminds me of a movie I saw where they take young competitors from each district and have them battle it out, some type of physical activity competition. I just can't remember the name. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful day. You know I love you and I'll see you tomorrow. But if I don't, stay out of trouble. Side note. Ain't no side note, baby. Look at me. Look at, I had a few extra seconds. I want to show you I got a little haircut. Looking good.
So the government released the first portion of the Jeffrey Epstein files today, and just like we thought, they're so heavily redacted that they're not even readable. But at the same time, we also bombed Syria today. So there's that. Just like we've all suspected, it's so heavily redacted, it's a joke. Like, there is no, the only thing that's really come out that is kind of new are some pictures from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. There's some pictures with him and Bill Clinton, which we already knew. There's some pictures of Bill Clinton in a pool with Ghislaine Maxwell, which we already knew. There's pictures of Michael Jackson at the estate and Michael Jackson on the plane, which is not shocking because we also already knew that Jeffrey Epstein was such a powerful man in his time that a slew of celebrities were always around him. At his house in New York, at his house in the island, at his parties. They did, however, forget to redact one thing, which I'm kind of shocked about. It is a sworn testimony of a 14-year-old about her experience with Jeffrey Epstein and her visit to Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump. It says, during one of those encounters with Epstein, he took her to Mar-a-Lago where he introduced her to the owner, Donald J. Trump, introducing 14-year-old Doe to Donald Trump. Epstein elbowed Trump playfully, asking him, referring to Doe, "This is a good one, right?" Trump smiled and nodded in agreement. They both chuckled and Doe felt uncomfortable, but at the time she was too young to understand why. I'm waiting for people like Megyn Kelly to be like, well, 14 is like the barely legal type, because what else would Epstein be referring to that she's a good one? And why would a 14-year-old be with an old man to visit another old man who are both billionaires in the privacy of his estate? But fact that these files are so heavily redacted, it's like I'm blind. I was reading them trying to read them, and it's just a joke, bro. It's just a joke. This is what we thought they were going to be, and the fact that the government keeps playing in our faces. And what's also very peculiar is that the United States also sent a missile into Syria today. So it got me thinking, like, what is so detrimental about these files that the same day they're released, we bomb Syria? Like I said to you guys yesterday, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but shit is not adding up. It's not adding up.
60 photos have been released from Jeffrey Epstein's estate by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee. The photos reinforce Epstein's ties to high-powered men, featuring Bill Gates, Woody Allen, Steve Bannon, and philosopher Noam Chomsky, as well as multiple female passports and photos showing quotes from Lolita written on a female's body. The Vladimir Nabokov novel is about a man's sexual obsession with a 12-year-old girl. No context was provided for any of these photos, so it's unclear when or where they were taken or who took them. Democrats redacted any identifiable information about survivors of Epstein's abuse, and it's unknown if the people pictured were victims. Democrats have been releasing small batches of the 95,000 images that they've received from the Epstein estate. Republicans have been criticizing Democrats for cherry-picking the information instead of combing through all of the material. The images include a screenshot of a text message conversation in which a person is discussing sending girls in exchange for money. Part of the text reads, quote, "I will send you girls now. Maybe someone will be good for Jay," along with a detailed physical description of someone. Some images feature an event called the Billionaires Dinner, hosted by the Edge Foundation in 2011 that include a number of tech and media power players. CNN reached out to everyone featured for comment. A spokesperson for Bill Gates has repeatedly denied that Epstein ever worked for him, and Gates has previously said he regrets meeting with Epstein. Noam Chomsky had previously declined CNN's request for comment. He is known to have once written a letter of recommendation for Epstein and was invited by Epstein to stay at one of his homes in 2015. Bannon has previously declined CNN's request for comment. Allen has also previously declined to comment to CNN, but told the Wall Street Journal that he never had a business meeting with Epstein and only spent time with him when his wife was present.
It's December 20th, the day after the Epstein Files Transparency Act deadline. We didn't get all of the Epstein files. This is what happens when you give a convicted criminal the pardon power. Yesterday, on the day of the deadline, he, the sitting president, the convicted criminal with the pardon power, had his personal attorney, who he named the Deputy Attorney General, had him go on national television to announce their collective intent to brazenly defy the very explicit, very clear letter of and intent of the law of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. They are acting like either they've already gotten a pardon for defying this law, or that they know that whatever consequences come from violating this law so brazenly, whatever consequences there might be, are not as bad as them actually letting the public know what's in these files. Donald Trump famously said that he could go into Fifth Avenue and end someone and wouldn't lose a single voter. And it's never not been true since the day he made that statement, which means that whatever they're hiding in these files, that they said to other Republicans, if you vote for this discharge petition that led to the law that forced the deadline yesterday, if you even support the discharge petition, it is a hostile act against the Trump administration. And now, 30 days after he signed that into law, they are brazenly breaking the law that says there must be a searchable, downloadable database of every file that the DOJ has on Jeffrey Ghislaine, his passing, any immunity deals, all of that stuff. Not only is it not all available, they gave a fraction of a percentage of what we know to be in the Epstein files. And what we've gotten is so heavily redacted that you can't make sense of it at all. A brazen, willful, collective conspiracy to break this law, which means that they know whatever's in these files is so much worse for DT than him ending someone on Fifth Avenue. So much worse. This is all speculation, but they're acting in a certain way. They're acting like what's in there is his origin story of how he got where he is today. Perhaps some settlements he made along the way. They're acting like what's in there would bring down very large figures, not just DT himself, but Neti Pot and Vladdy Poot as well. They're acting like the whole thing is dependent on the public not seeing what's in these files. If there wasn't something worth hiding, if there wasn't something worth collectively breaking the law to hide. But now they have placed themselves on the other side of an issue that is uniting people across the political spectrum. The public outcry will continue to grow, even if the other entities, governments, whatever, that have these files don't release, which, by the way, the House Oversight Committee just needs to release the 95,000 photos in their possession and the rest of it that they have. There is no scenario where they can continue to hold on to this information and not be crushed in the midterms in November. But yesterday is proof, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Donald Trump and his cronies will do absolutely anything to hide these files.
People are forgetting how we got here with the Epstein Files, so we're going to do a full timeline. So how did we get here? To answer that, we need to take a step backwards. It was a sunny day in 1953 when Jeffrey Epstein was born in Brooklyn. Okay. March 2005, a 14-year-old girl and her parents come to the Palm Beach police saying Epstein molested her in his mansion. Police investigate. They find 30 other underage girls. May 2006, police conclude their investigation and recommend charges. They're like, he's totally guilty. A Palm Beach grand jury indicts him on one charge, solicitation of prostitution. 2007 to 2008, Epstein's lawyers quietly negotiate a little non-prosecution agreement. With who? That's important. Remember this name, Alexander Acosta. What did the deal include? It granted Epstein federal immunity from any sex trafficking charges. It also protected any unnamed co-conspirators. Epstein agrees to plead guilty on 2 state charges instead. It's definitely worth noting here that the Office of Professional Responsibility found that Alexander Acosta used poor judgment when he decided not to notify the victims of his plans to give this deal to Epstein. June 2008, Epstein pleads guilty in Florida state court, solicitation of prostitution and solicitation of a minor for prostitution. He's sentenced to 18 months in jail. Justice is served. You think that's a light sentence? I've got news for you. He only served 13 months. And during those 13 months, he was actually allowed out 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Work release. They also negotiated that any deputies escorting him to his office needed to dress in business attire because otherwise that would be super embarrassing for him. A sex offender. He quietly settles all these civil lawsuits with his accusers. 2011 to 2016, this was supposed to just go away for Jeffy. Luckily, it didn't. Why? Investigative journalism. Public outrage grows. January 2017, Trump is sworn in. February 2017, I told you to remember a name. Do you remember what that name was? Alexander Acosta. Trump nominates Acosta as Labor Secretary. He's confirmed by the Senate in April 2017. This revives interest. Why? Alex Acosta was the U.S. attorney in Florida who negotiated a non-prosecution agreement with Epstein's lawyers without telling the victims. Okay, this next part gets hot, and I'm not trying to do this for free, so I'm going to make a part 2.
Did you see what the depraved Pam Bondi just did? Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice, the DOJ, they only released files that were either totally redacted or that featured prominent Democrats like Bill Clinton and entertainment icons like Mick Jagger, Michael Jackson, and Diana Ross. And these people, by the way, are doing nothing but having their photos taken with Jeffrey Epstein. And like Bill Clinton, one of them, he's swimming in a pool with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. And that's it. And Diana Ross is just having her photo taken with, Michael Jackson and whatnot. These were just high-profile people hanging out and socializing with socialites. It's no sign of any guilt. But then you see the photos that do show Trump and all these redacted faces of young women and like Prince Andrew laying across the laps of a bunch of young women, faces redacted. So Pam Bondi and the DOJ would like you to believe that it's really the Democrats and Mick Jagger and Michael Jackson. Like, do they think that the American public is that naive and uninformed? This is like throwing a prize fight. I mean, these guys are just destroying the Republican Party at this point because even MAGA and people on the other side, they wanted to see these files and they still want to see these files and they're not going to tolerate, pedos. So it's just unbelievable to me that they think that they're going to be able to hide all this stuff. Not to mention, many members of Congress and the Senate and the House have actually seen the unredacted files and they know what's in there. And, some of them are threatening to go on the floor of Congress and recite names and things that they saw because they can't be sued on the floor of Congress when they speak. For anything that they say on the floor of Congress, they can't be sued, jailed, or anything. So they're cooked. These guys are cooked. They better come out with more files, and the real deal is going to come out. Just give it some time. But Pam Bondi, wow, she needs to definitely be impeached. And there's big trouble down the road for her, trying to pull this crap and all the other stuff she's doing.
I do not care about the Epstein Files. I've never cared about the Epstein Files. I've always thought that they were a massive distraction for everything that was going on. And I think that it's very curious that Republicans just got a huge win, okay? Because we got 8 Democrat senators to cave and really set the stage to reopening the government, right? And so it was a huge, huge loss for Democrats because they weren't able to pull the wool over the public's eyes in stop them from seeing the fact that they were trying to send all of this money to illegal immigrants and all this money all across the world, and they tried to pull on the Republicans, and people just were not buying it, so they had to cave. So as soon as Democrats caved, and as soon as they're about to get the government open, now all of a sudden, the Epstein Files psyop is coming out again. Like, I just have never cared about this. This is something that Democrats don't even care about because they don't care about the rights of women and girls. They don't care, and they don't care about sex trafficking. They don't care about any of these things. The only thing that they care about is something that they can use to hurt Trump and something that they can use to see like, oh, we can fracture the MAGA base by doing this. It's completely ridiculous. I generally don't even do content on it. I don't take news hits about it. I remember I did a Piers Morgan hit a couple of months ago where that was the subject, and I was just like, I literally do not care. So I do not care about the Epstein Files, like, at all.
Hello and good evening. Listen, in another episode of As the White Hood Turns, have y'all heard that they released the Epstein Files? And they were so heavily redacted, all you could probably get was the word the and And not only did they release these files so heavily redacted that you can't read nothing, did you see that they put them pictures out of Sweet Dick Willie? And they're now issuing subpoenas for him and Hillary. So, like, you literally just gonna be out here only going after the liberals and Democrats. But, okay, sir. Anyway, all I'm saying is, these people, when the time comes, they're going to jail. They've defied the courts. They were supposed to release the entire trove of documents because they signed it into law. The Transparency Act. Transparency means you're supposed to be able to see shit. Can't see nothing in them documents. I just feel like the conspiracy theorists that are saying that he's never leaving office, I believe they're right. Because there is no way that these people, Department of Justice, any of these people that are involved in this, if there is a change in government, they're going to jail. They're getting locked up. They ain't getting out. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. So, it's a hot mess. It's just a hot mess. And the victims have all come forward and said, hey, we want all of this out in the open. We don't care. One lady said they're afraid to name names because of all the death threats. See it? I think the best thing you can do is just, that's it. Okay. Y'all have a good evening. Locked up, they ain't getting out. Mm-hmm.
I'm not the only one that is utterly heartbroken because of Noam Chomsky appearing in the Epstein list, right? I'm not the only one who's grieving. I figured out that the person that I put in a pedestal, foolishly, because we're all human and no one should be in a pedestal, but the person that I put in a pedestal and that structured my worldview was not only connected and continued to contact a convicted child sex offender, he hung out with his crew. He discussed politics with him. He consulted him for a financial transaction that he refuses to explain, but has the hints, and again, not saying exactly what it is because we don't know, but has the hints of potentially a tax dodging kind of scheme, because it involves transfers, but it doesn't have a lot of details, and he doesn't provide enough details. And I know that I'm 45 and I shouldn't have heroes, but Jesus Christ, that was a surprise for me. Because all of the rest I expected. But him, with his view of the world, how could he?
Breaking news this evening. According to multiple reports, the Department of Justice quietly scrubbed multiple photos and documents tied to Jeffrey Epstein's estate on their website this morning, including a viral photo that is now all over that showed Donald Trump's face in Jeffrey Epstein's drawer. It was removed, quietly, vanished like it was never there. The photo was a part of a broader Epstein file release that was supposed to be all released Friday. And now this morning, Saturday, it's all gone. Poof. The photos that they had on there are now mysteriously vanished. No explanation, no press conference, no oops, just bye-bye. And here's the part that makes people pause. The image reportedly showed a desk filled with unframed and framed photos. It wasn't just some stock photo. It was direct evidence tied to Jeffrey Epstein's case. When something appears on an official DOJ website and then disappears, people take notice, especially when it involves the President of the United States. Because why release it and then quietly erase it if there's no guilt there? Or it got released, went viral, someone said, oh my gosh, you weren't supposed to release that one, and then someone had to go scrub that really fast.
A huge batch of never-seen-before Epstein files were released last night, which include the likes of Michael Jackson, Chris Tucker, Bill Clinton, again, Mick Jagger, and many more. But here's the three main key takeaways. Firstly, the pictures. Bill Clinton definitely got the worst of this one, with shots of him everywhere, including looking far too comfortable in a hot tub and a swimming pool. We got not Prince Andrew lying across the laps of several redacted women, Chris Tucker, which, let's be honest, no one wanted to see him here, Michael Jackson with Bill Clinton and Diana Ross. But yet again, from the pictures, nothing groundbreaking, it's not showing anything illegal, and there are huge redactions. The second key takeaway is that this release actually failed to follow the law requiring the release of all the files. In fact, for example, every single one of the 119 grand jury testimony pages were redacted. We're talking entire pages here. However, in saying that, the Department of Justice have said that they will release more documents in the coming weeks. And the third and potentially biggest key takeaway from this is that we got confirmation last night that the FBI was warned about Epstein as far back as 1996. You see, one of the victims, Maria Farmer, submitted a complaint to law enforcement that Epstein stole pictures of her underage sisters and then sold them to potential buyers. In fact, one part of her handwritten complaint says that Epstein at one time requested, redacted name, to take pictures of young girls at swimming pools. Quote, Epstein is now threatening, redacted name, that if she tells anyone about the photos, he will burn her house down. So the FBI was tipped off about Epstein 23 years before he was finally brought to justice. And even saying justice is generous because he died before he was ever tried in court. But there is still a lot more to comb through and still to come, so we'll keep you guys updated as we know more.
I've long stated who I thought Epstein was working for from the very beginning. You know, before he signed that cooperation contract with the FBI, when he got busted in the state of Florida and got a sweetheart deal for himself and blanket immunity for a bunch of unnamed people. Now the Epstein files have dropped, well, the stuff that they've actually dropped and the stuff that's not super redacted. But one thing that I noticed is we have even more photos of this IDF sweater that we've already seen him wear in pictures in the past. For those of you who don't know, it's the Israel Defense Force. It's the army for the nation of Israel. To be objective and fair, he's also seen here wearing U.S. Army sweatpants. So maybe he's just some sort of G.I. Joe wannabe cosplaying fake badass. But if you notice the books that are up there, there are 36 of the books of the 63 books of the Talmud up there. If you don't know what the Talmud is, it's the foundational text of Judaism. These are the texts that tell people that practice Judaism that anybody who doesn't practice Judaism is goyim, which is basically like we're human cattle, we could be enslaved, we could be deceived, we could be sued, and that they are superior to us and we are subject to them. And the whole thing comes even more into focus when you keep in mind who Ghislaine Maxwell's father was, Robert Maxwell, a very well-known spy for Mossad. Listen, Jeffrey Epstein was an absolute nobody who ended up with hundreds of millions of dollars, able to buy private planes, able to buy houses and ranches and an island. There's no way that he was an organically produced monster. He was absolutely an asset. The only question is, who was he an asset for? What do y'all think? Let me know down in the comments.
I was on a call with Congressman Ro Khanna last night, and one thing has become very clear to me. The Trump administration has something deeply nefarious to hide because their failure to comply with the law and release the entirety of the Epstein files by midnight last night is going to have some very intense consequences. Every single person in the Department of Justice that is even remotely attached to these files could be held in contempt of Congress and face criminal obstruction of justice charges. The outrage here is also much more bipartisan than many people realize, and figures in the Republican Party who haven't been vocal about this thus far are now apparently privately saying they're ready to get on board with things like impeaching Pam Bondi. I frankly think this disgust comes from two things. Not only that they didn't comply with the law, but also that what they released was so heavily redacted, they might as well have just not released anything at all. Literally 90% of all the papers that they actually publicly released yesterday were completely blacked out. 3 federal judges have also ordered that these files be released completely and unredacted aside from the victims' identities, and this was a blatant disregard of every single one of those orders, so contempt of court is also on the table here. I don't know about you, but I find it deeply troubling that the party that is constantly pointing the finger at other people and calling them groomers is unwilling to reveal who the actual predators are.
Alright guys, at the end of the day, the truth will surely come out. Okay, even if it takes months, years, definitely the truth will come out. That's one thing about life you guys don't know. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you found it very interesting, please make sure to like it. Support the channel by subscribing to the channel. Okay, I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye and stay safe.